What is the theory of relative deprivation politics? In the realm of politics, the theory of relative deprivation serves as a lens through which we can comprehend the impact of perceived inequalities on political attitudes and behaviors. This exploration aims to simplify the theory, breaking down its core concepts and providing examples to illustrate how feelings of relative deprivation can shape political landscapes, fueling discontent and influencing political dynamics. Key concepts of relative deprivation in politics. Relative deprivation in politics revolves around the notion that individuals or groups assess their well-being not solely based on absolute conditions but by comparing themselves to others. When people perceive themselves as unfairly disadvantaged in comparison to their peers, it can lead to political discontent and mobilization. Example: economic policies and voter discontent. Consider a society where economic policies disproportionately favor the wealthy, widening the wealth gap. Those in lower income brackets may experience relative deprivation, feeling disadvantaged in the political and economic spheres. This perception can lead to voter discontent and political movements advocating for policies that address these disparities. Social identity and political mobilization. Social identity theory, a cornerstone of relative deprivation in politics, posits that individuals derive a part of their identity from the social groups to which they belong. When these groups perceive relative deprivation, it can intensify feelings of injustice and mobilize collective political action. Example: identity politics and advocacy. In a politically polarized environment, identity politics often arises. If a minority group perceives systemic disadvantages and unequal representation, a sense of relative deprivation can mobilize the group to advocate for policies that address these disparities. This dynamic influences the political landscape by shaping the narratives around identity-based issues. Access to political power and participation. Relative deprivation also extends to political power and participation. When certain groups feel excluded or marginalized, it can spark movements for political inclusion and representation. Example: voting rights in minority communities. In the struggle for voting rights, minority communities historically faced relative deprivation due to discriminatory practices. Movements, such as the civil rights movement, were fueled by the perceived injustice of being denied the right to vote. These movements, in turn, shaped the political landscape by challenging and reshaping electoral laws. Global perspectives on relative deprivation. On an international scale, relative deprivation can contribute to political instability. Nations that perceive themselves as unfairly treated in global affairs may experience political upheaval as a response to perceived injustices. Example: global trade agreements and national economies. Imagine a country that perceives itself as disadvantaged in global trade agreements, leading to economic hardships for its citizens. The resulting relative deprivation can manifest in political movements demanding a renegotiation of trade deals or a shift in economic policies to address perceived inequalities on the global stage. Media framing and political narratives. Media plays a pivotal role in shaping perceptions of relative deprivation in politics. The framing of social issues and political narratives can influence public opinion and contribute to the overall political climate. Example: media framing of social issues. Consider how media frames social issues such as healthcare. If media coverage emphasizes disparities in access to healthcare, individuals who perceive themselves as disadvantaged may mobilize politically to advocate for healthcare reform. This can, in turn, reshape political conversations and priorities. Policy responses to mitigate relative deprivation. Governments and policymakers play a vital role in addressing relative deprivation. Policy responses that focus on reducing disparities, promoting inclusivity, and fostering social cohesion can mitigate the negative political consequences of perceived inequality. Example: social welfare programs and poverty alleviation. Governments implementing robust social welfare programs to address poverty contribute to mitigating relative deprivation. By providing a safety net and opportunities for upward mobility, such policies aim to reduce disparities and foster a more equitable political landscape. Challenges and criticisms of relative deprivation in politics. While valuable, the theory of relative deprivation in politics is not without challenges. Critics argue that it may oversimplify complex political dynamics and neglect other factors contributing to discontent and political action. Example: multifaceted nature of political discontent. Consider a scenario where political discontent arises from a combination of factors, including economic policies, social issues, and international relations. Critics argue that focusing solely on relative deprivation may overlook the multifaceted nature of political discontent and the interplay of various factors. Conclusion: in unraveling the theory of relative deprivation in politics, we gain insights into the ways perceived inequalities can shape political landscapes and drive collective action. From identity-based movements to global political shifts, the concept of relative deprivation underscores the powerful influence of social comparisons in political dynamics. Acknowledging and addressing these disparities becomes essential for creating inclusive and equitable political environments. As societies grapple with the challenges of political discontent, the theory of relative deprivation serves as a valuable tool for understanding the complex interplay between perceptions of inequality and political mobilization. World.